Ooh, looks like a lot of snow has fallen on the mountaintops here in Switzerland. Very, very cold. Wouldn't want to go up there without a serious jacket.
Maybe some snowshoes.
Oh, I hate the cold. I certainly wouldn't want to be stuck in a blizzard up there. Luckily, down here, there's no snow at all.
As a matter of fact, we got plenty of sunshine heading my way.
Zippity-doo-dah.
Zippity Kylo Ren.
Get out of my head!
Looks like they're having a little bit of an argument over there. None of our business. Let's move along.
Well, it's true that there's no snow falling down here, my friend.
But there's still plenty of winter magic going on out here. Look at this.
Disneyland at Christmas. That castle is a beautiful thing.
I love that Christmas transformation.
But as great as that is, you know what I'm more excited about?
Check this out.
Look up here, beyond the Christmas balloons. It's the garlands.
Christmas garlands over Main Street. Look.
Just look at how Christmassy that is. The garlands hung over Main Street.
So many small towns in America, or bigger towns that have an old downtown,
hang up Christmas garlands over their main street, and Main Street, USA is no exception, but these haven't been around for a while.
In 2015, for the 60th anniversary of Disneyland, they had that big Paint the Night parade, and the floats were too tall to get under the garlands.
Then in 2016, for the holidays, they decided to keep the whole Paint the Night thing going.
So there were no garlands, just so the Frozen float could fit down Main Street.
It was so sad. I love these Christmas garlands. They've been a part of my life for decades.
Don't believe me? I can prove it.
Earlier today, I stopped by my storage unit and I found a surprise.
Surprise! Whoa. It was a stack of old pictures that included some pictures from Disneyland, me and my family here at Disneyland.
In either 1998 or more likely 1997.
20 years ago, and 20 years ago, my mom, I'm guessing, was taking a picture right here.
Look at this. This is Disneyland in 1997, 20 years ago, and 20 years later, we are standing in roughly the same spot. Look at that. It almost looks identical to the way it did in the 90s. The garlands look a little different. Some of the paint colors have changed.
But for the most part, Disneyland is still here. It still looks the same.
Almost everything else in Anaheim, everything else in Orange County, everything else I grew up with looks completely different, but not Main Street, USA. I love these garlands.
There's also another picture in the bunch taken in Town Square.
My family and I were sitting on a bench right over here. Check that out. Check out the 90s family sitting on that bench right in this spot.
Wow, that's crazy. The Emporium looks the same.
Decorations are a little different, and if you notice, the tree has moved to the right and gotten a lot smaller.
How did they shrink a tree?
I actually remember that day at Disneyland, that nice holiday trip. I remember it because my mom bought me that green Fender shirt
and made me wear it so that I wouldn't look dirty and punk rock in any family photos that we took together. Fair enough, Mom.
No one understands teenage Justin. I just have so much angst.
Yes, sir, a lot of memories at Disneyland. Holiday memories, even.
And you know what? That was a very exciting time to be down here at Disneyland.
As some of the other pictures in the stack reveal, in 1998, Disneyland unveiled their brand new Tomorrowland.
It was called New Tomorrowland.
They took everything that had been white and mid-century in Disneyland's Tomorrowland
and turned it into a golden vision of our future, mostly by painting everything gold.
This right here was Circle Vision. Check it out. See, that was the giant circular theater showing America the Beautiful.
They closed that puppy down.
And right above us here, the People Mover, they shut that down too.
Originally, it was going to be Tomorrowland 2055, 100 years into the future of the original Tomorrowland. But eventually, with some budget cuts, that just became, it's New Tomorrowland.
And when it finally opened up in the spring, I believe, of 1998, we had a new ride up on the People Mover tracks, the Rocket Ride.
The Circle Vision Theater became just the line for the rocket rods.
And they took away our old rockets that were up there on top of what was the People Mover loading platform
and gave us these.
The rockets of the Astro Orbiter.
Or as it was already known in Disneyland Paris, the Orbitron.
Look at that thing, still popular almost 20 years later. People love to stand in line for this thing.
Which is why I'm pretty sure those pictures are from 1997 because I've got a picture of this.
And if you look very closely, you'll see me there in the Fender shirt. But what you won't see is a line.
The only explanation I could think of is that this ride was here, but not yet open, which is probably why I was standing against this fence 20 years ago.
Completely tripping out. I was probably glad that the rockets were now nearer to the ground, because those things still scare me.
Let's see, if I was standing right here, then my mom must have been taking the picture right there.
That is so weird. Look at that. 20 years later, other than a couple of paint changes, not too much looks different.
That is so weird.
The brand new Astro Orbiter, not yet open.
And if you look carefully in the background of that picture, you can see the People Mover tracks all covered with tarps.
Because they were still working on the then top secret rocket rod.
Kind of hard to tell, but you can also see, if you look very closely, a whole bunch of scaffolding right up here against this wall.
Because they were painting the whole thing gold, transforming it from the futuristic white plastic look of the 1960s into the very short-lived gold look of the late 1990s.
Astro Orbiter may not have been open, but Star Tour still was.
Wow, look at that. In the old picture, you can see the People Mover tracks are all covered up as they get transformed into the rocket rods, but Star Tour's already had pretty much its modern shape installed already. Look at it 20 years later. What a trip. The paint scheme has totally changed.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm actually super grateful for that, because the Golden Future was really cool, like at first, for like the first little while.
And at Disneyland Paris, where they have Discoveryland, it's all steampunky instead of Tomorrowland, it totally works. But here at Disneyland, I don't know. It just never felt quite as futuristic. It is much better looking now.
It's funny that the outside of Star Tours looks the same, because the inside has totally changed. That was the old Star Tours we would have been riding that day, the old version to Endor.
See, when I was a very little kid in the 80s and early 90s, Tomorrowland was all white, just like it was back in the 50s and the 60s. But that new Tomorrowland turned it all gold.
It looks much better now, even though it's more blue than white. I like this. It reminds me still of Tomorrowland of my childhood.
It's just crazy to think that at one point, even Space Mountain over there was painted all gold.
Seriously, Gold Space Mountain.
Yuck. It is much, much better now. Look at that. You can see the old People Mover tracks up there behind that rocket. See them? The rocket rods were zooming through there in '98.
But it was only about 2 years before that ride was completely gone, and then another few months before Disney was like, yeah, it's not coming back.
I've read somewhere that if you count all the time it was down for refurbishment and maintenance, the ride was only open for a matter of months.
Ooh, big mistake. Well, anyway, ever since 2001 when they said, yeah, rocket rods aren't coming back, sorry guys.
We've been waiting for that People Mover to return.
Still waiting.
Let's face it, it's very unlikely to happen.
But I refuse to give up hope.
Alright, it's fun to reminisce, but the sun is going down.
Time for me to hurry up and make my way across the park
To go see something completely different.
We're gonna stop thinking about what happened 20 years ago and start thinking about what happened more than 100 years ago.
182 years ago exactly, to be precise. You see, today is November 30th.
A very important birthday, the birthday of one of my heroes,
Woody!
No, I'm just kidding. Woody's not 182 years old, and I have no idea when his birthday is. No, my friends, I'm talking about the hero of my right forearm, Mr. Mark Twain.
And as you know, here in the old west of Frontierland,
Walt Disney created the ultimate tribute to Mark Twain.
the Mark Twain Riverboat.
I like Walt Disney. I am a huge fan of Mark Twain. Unlike Walt Disney, I tattooed him on my arm.
His stories have made me laugh, they've made me cry, they've never made me stick a needle in my eye, but I love him.
So of course, I love the Mark Twain Riverboat.
It's actually my love of Mark Twain that made me love the era of steamboating.
And he wrote a great book on the subject, Life on the Mississippi.
It's actually the book on the subject.
Because Mark Twain was a Mississippi River steamboat pilot. That means he was the guy that drove it.
So it's very fitting, and I think you'd be very pleased to know that Disneyland's boat is named after him.
Dude, this is awesome. We showed up just in time.
Because what better way to pay tribute to Mark Twain on his birthday than riding on his boat?
And here we go.
I tried to take a Mark Twain birthday voyage last year on this same day.
But unfortunately, last year on November 30th, the Mark Twain Train was closed.
The rivers of America themselves were closed.
Star Wars Land is a-coming. Another thing I'm a fan of.
So while they were making big changes to the river to accommodate it,
Sadly, a birthday voyage for Mark Twain was impossible.
but not this year. Oh no.
Oh, not this year.
This year we're steaming out of port.
Dude, the era of the riverboats was so fascinating. A steamboat back then was like a spaceship.
Very high tech and very classy inside. Crystal chandeliers, there was gambling.
Beautiful staterooms, things were gilded with gold, actual silverware.
Some of them backwoods farmers that would take the old steamboat were blown away by the opulence.
All the little boys up and down the river wanted to work on the steamboats, become steamboat pilots.
That would have been major bragging rights back then, and one of those little boys that would have been alongside the levee watching these things go floating by
was the young Samuel Langhorne Clemens.
every day in his hometown of Hannibal, Missouri. He would have watched the steamboats go by and heard them yelling out, "Mark Twain,"
Which meant the water was 2 fathoms deep. Safe passage.
Later, that became his pen name. He traveled all over the world, wrote some funny books, then wrote Tom Sawyer, for whom this island over here is named.
Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and at the same time as he was writing that classic, Life on the Mississippi.
A lot of people have read Adventures of Huckleberry Finn in high school especially.
Many people say, and they've got a great argument, that that's the great American novel, but far fewer people know about the more factually based book he was writing at the same time, Life on the Mississippi. If you're a reader, I highly recommend it. You can find it for free on Amazon Books and iBooks and Project Gutenberg.
It starts off kind of dry, but believe me, it picks up steam.
Picks up steam. See what I did there?
Look at this. It's like we're time traveling again, but this time back into the days when steamboats ruled the rivers of America.
Look at the changes they made to this river.
Honestly, they are pretty amazing. You can see Star Wars Land rising up in the background, but we're just gonna ignore that for the moment. Wow. Look at that.
It's so beautiful. They did such a great job.
What a transformation. Everybody was worried that it would be a bad transformation, but honestly, it turned out pretty good.
It's gorgeous. I love the Western United States. This really makes you feel like you're out there.
And I almost forgot my favorite part. Look at the beaver down there chewing away at the wooden train trestle. That is so cool.
Oh, I almost forgot. The friendly Indian village.
They still have the storytelling shaman. Now, he's up on a cliff, but in that old stack of photos 20 years ago, he was firmly planted along the ground with the rest of his friends at the old village.
Look at that. Can you hear him?
Here he is today, up there, telling his tales. And here's the village today. 20 years ago, it looked a lot different. A lot more flat. I personally think it actually looks a lot better now. What do you think?
And look at this. You see these old abandoned tracks? Those were the tracks from Mine Train through Nature's Wonderland.
Now that's been closed for a lot longer than 20 years, but 20 years ago there was still another piece of it here that's long since gone.
There used to be a little mountain on this river bend called Cascade Peak. There was a whole bunch of waterfalls on it. One of the waterfalls was actually called Big Thunder Falls. That's where we get the name for Big Thunder Mountain.
Look at it. Cascade Peak, no longer there today. But 20 years ago, when we were cruising the rivers of America, we snapped a fun pic of it.
Oh, memories. Really glad I found that box of pictures.
Kinda miss old Cascade Peak.
Well, at least we still have the Mark Twain riverboat and, of course, Tom Sawyer Island. I love Tom Sawyer Island.
You can no longer climb up in Tom and Huck's treehouse. That's closed. But you can still roam around the island that Walt Disney designed himself.
Slightly more piratey now than it used to be, but still very Twainish in a way.
That means we're approaching port. This nostalgic river journey has now come to a close.
If you're ever at Disneyland on November 30th, make sure to take a cruise on the Mark Twain.
It's a great way to honor my #1 homie. All right, guys, the sun is going down.
I've got some epic travel plans coming up that I got to get prepared for, but I really want to thank you for time traveling with me today.
It has been one heck of a lot of fun. Make sure you check out Life on the Mississippi if you ever get the chance.
For you Disney fans, it'll really help you understand Rivers of America, the Mark Twain riverboat.
And for you history buffs, there's a lot of facts, statistics in there.
History, but also a lot of tall tales, old legends, stories, and how Mark Twain became a steamboat pilot, how difficult that used to be. Honestly, I think it's pretty fascinating. Personally, one of my favorite books of all time.
All right, everybody's backing up off the boat here. The sun is going down and I must depart
And make my way out of Walt Disney's original Magic Kingdom.
But don't be sad, gang. There are more adventures in store. I can safely promise you that we are going to be moving full steam ahead very soon.
For now, though, we've done a little bit of time traveling and we've taken our Mark Twain birthday cruise.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say that we've done our duty.
we can row home and sleep well.
Yes, sir. It is one heck of a beautiful place. Look at that. It's gorgeous. It's almost unbearably beautiful. Main Street, USA. Oh, what a fun one.
It's always hard to drag yourself away from Disneyland, especially Christmas Disneyland. I'm dragging myself away with a little bit of a limp.
Because earlier today, I fell down.
Surprise! Surprise! Oh yeah, that was real.
What a fun one.
Till next time.